African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
And on another magical live safari adventure, as we eagerly anticipate the birth of the impala lambs and all other exciting things of the African bush, this is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome on the Sunrise Safari. My name is Jamie, if you have just joined us, and this is Brian on camera with me, of course, always accompanied by the Morning Thumb. We're coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserve in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And because we are live, it also means that we are interactive, which means send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email through to questions@WildEarthTV. And I have to tell you, on the Sunrise Safari, I don't think, actually, I take that back. I was about to say I don't think a sunrise is imminent, but actually it might turn out to be a beautiful morning after all. We had even more rain last night, which is of course always a pleasure out here, as it feeds the thirsty landscape. And now the sun is just struggling to break through the clouds and rise up above the horizon. What a stunning morning this is going to be. I think we might even have a little bit more rain at some point further or later on today. But hopefully we'll be able to carry on throughout the Sunrise Safari. And as I said, of course, each and every single impala herd that we stop at, we are going to be having a look to see whether or not there are any little ones. And it doesn't look as though this herd has got any babies with it just yet. But for those of you who perhaps missed the Sunset Safari, the first impala lamb has been seen in the Sabi Sand, not by us on our live drives, and we have something of a bet going as to when we're going to see the first little one on our live safaris. I've said the 15th of November for sentimental reasons, since a friend of mine is due to have a baby on the 15th of November. Brian, what do you think?
I say tomorrow.
You say tomorrow. You might not be that far off. I mean, look at that female there that's nibbling in the tree. Some of them are rotund, to say the least, and definitely almost on the verge of popping. So, Mauritia, you say today is the day that you voted that they were going to have their babies, so let us find one. It is amazing how at this time of year we stop for each and every single impala herd and give it, if not a long glance, then at least a cursory glance to see whether or not there's any little pitter-patter of tiny impala hooves. I don't hear any pitter-pattering, Brian. Not just yet. But we are going to be getting closer and closer to the start. Oh, somebody's got an itchy leg. We are definitely going to be getting closer and closer to the arrival of the little ones. For our new viewers, it is always an incredibly exciting time. There is nothing quite like the sight of the spring load of impala lambs, all born roughly within a few days of each other, or usually around a few days of each other, scampering around, forming their little creches, looking wobbly and gorgeous. The other thing that's happened, of course, is that this time for the impala's lives has confused the males terribly. Last night I was listening to the sounds of them just before I went to bed, and the constant grunting sounds of impalas in rut, which is, of course, totally confused on their part. And the rams sort of take in all of the hormones that are flying about with these pregnancies and think that it's time to mate, which it isn't. And I'm afraid to say that they're barking quite literally up the wrong tree. Hey, mister, you're definitely not going to be getting luck with any of these females anytime soon. It is, however, highly entertaining to watch. Right, well, since there's no impala babies here, I think it's time to go off in search of other things. And of course, on a morning like this morning, post-rain, there's also the prospect of all sorts of exciting things. Frogs, reptiles, who knows what else we could find. I've noticed a few flying ants or termites, and there might be birds feeding upon them. Now, that's what we're going to be looking for today, some of the smaller things as well. And while we trundle along, let's head across to Brent so that he can say a proper good morning to you all.
Welcome to a beautifully crisp and clear cloudy morning here in the African bush. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Vim on camera back from leave, and we're way down on the south. I was looking for one of these yesterday, but I didn't have any luck. But this morning we have found a big one. Crossing the road at a snail's pace. There we go, the giant land snail. And he's moving at high speed. Now, a lot of the giant land snails are carnivorous, and one of their favorite foods is other snails. And you can see he's in high gear. I know a few of you have been waiting, so the wet weather has brought out the giant land snail. And you can see how he's moving, it's incredible. So minor little contractions along his single foot that sort of just creep along. And of course there's that sticky substance they leave behind. And you can see how the sand is sticking to his underbelly. That's a big one, and an old one, judging by its shell. You can see his antennae there. Almost think we should have some giant land snail races. What do you think, Fim? Nah, might take a bit of time. Bye, snail. Okay, so we are looking for any sign of Queen Karula. Oh, Vim's heard something. Vim said he might have heard some alarm calls. Oh, I hear a lion. Sounds like possibly down towards the Arathusa airstrip. Just listen again. So those lions are somewhere close to Jamie. If Jamie can say lion audio. So everyone just switches off and listens. I would say that sounds almost like it's at Djuma, at the camp. But there was another lion audio from down in Arathusa as well. Oh, kudu alarm calling. That's almost certainly Queen Karula. Hopefully she's coming this way. She is down, or whatever those kudu are alarming at are to the south of us. Now, Celine, who's 4 years old, says she would love to see lions this morning. Celine, I think there's a good chance. I think Jamie's probably hot on the trail of those calls. Now, whatever that kudu was alarm calling is directly opposite us here, but still quite deep within our neighboring property. Come on, come on. Probably say about 800 meters or so in. Now it's gamble time. Do we wait it out? Or do we keep looking for something else? Let me see on the radio quickly. Morning mobile stations. Any station in the east copy me? I think they're all still tucked up in bed. Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go down towards the Mwati River and then maybe take a swing back up here a little later. Okay, well, Celine, who's 4, is looking forward to seeing some lions, so let's go to Jamie and see how her lion hunt is going.
Well, Celine, I'm definitely going to be out and about looking for lions. On that note, just bear with me one moment, because as soon as Brent called in that there was the sound of lions roaring, I stopped and switched off the vehicle and was trying to listen. From where we are, I can't hear them. The only thing I can hear is a ground hornbill. So what I want to do is just contact Brent on the Game Drive channel quickly, and I'll stop here where there's a nice-ish view of the clouds and the horizon. And I'll try and find out exactly, oh my goodness, how beautiful. What a stunning morning. Yes, let's stop here, I think. Take a moment to take in the scenery. Brent for Jamie. Look at the Drakensberg Mountains on the horizon. Whereabouts did that audio come from? Okay, copy. I'm going to come along Sandy Patch and then make my way along Gari Cut Line. Stunning silhouettes of the Drakensberg Mountains. In the distance, the highest point, Maroopskop, where all sorts of antennas sit at the top. Apparently were there from the days of a more troubled history of South Africa, communicating across the oceans, making sure that we were not under threat from, at the time, what was considered to be the terrible communist threat. Now, they just sit up there relatively untouched. It is a beautiful spot. For those of you who ever come to visit this area, I would strongly, strongly recommend going up to the top of Maroopskop. It's the most amazing ecosystem all of itself. Rainforest in the middle, and then you go up to the top and you get fynbos, which is a type of plant, or a plant type of vegetation type that really you only find in Cape Town and on the top of Maroopskop. It's quite fascinating. So for those of you that ever find yourself in the area, I would definitely head up in that direction. They say, I've been up there, I've never managed it, but they say on a clear day and with binoculars you can actually see the ocean, which is a good couple of 100 kilometers away from where we are at the moment. You can also look down into the Blyde River Canyon, which is the largest green canyon in the world. Don't know what it looks like at the moment though, after the drought. Hopefully, I think there's actually been enough rain to start refilling the Blyde River Dam coming through down the mountains. But on to things a little bit closer to home. I think we're going to go and try and find those lions, whatever else we happen to encounter along the way. Days like today are perfect for looking for big cats. And because it's a nice and cold and slightly cloudy and rainy, and James in Ireland, thank you very much for sending that through. And James in Ireland said that he loves the work that we do, and that trundle is James's new favorite word. Trundle, of course, is something it has become one of my fallback words. I have a few of them. When I first started working, it was the word so. And I've gone through quite a few of them throughout the year and a half that I've been working for Wild Earth. My latest one is that being said. I'm trying to break the that being said habit, which apparently I say all the time. So James, thanks very much for sending that through. We're going to trundle along. It is a good word though. I think it's perfectly descriptive of what it is we do. When we don't have a plan and we're not necessarily going straight to one sighting or another, we trundle. We go off and search for all kinds of interesting things. And particularly after the rain, which is where I was going with that sentence before I got distracted. With the big cats in particular, all of their scent marks, all of their territorial markings have been washed away. And last night we were treated to the incredible sound of one of the Birmingham boys roaring, it was Tino I believe, roaring right next to the vehicle, joined in, or Mfumo joined in with him. And there's nothing quite like that sound vibrating in your chest when a lion roars right next to you. And he immediately set off and was marking his territory all the way along Twin Dams Road, which runs right through the center of Djuma. So the leopards, the lions, even the cheetah are, male cheetah at least, females are not really territorial, but out marking their territory and reaffirming that this is their land. And of course it's cool, which means that all of the animals are likely to be slightly more active. You'll find that the elephants are more playful. The impala and the antelope are more energetic. You can hardly blame them. This lovely drop in temperature, it was 21 degrees centigrade this morning, so 69 in Fahrenheit. Beautiful day. And of course everything feels fresh and clean. You've got the smell of petrichor. James is one of James's favorite words. A petrichor in the air. The smell of the earth after the rain. Does also mean that some of the animals do go into hiding, which they appear to be doing very, very well this morning. And I really, honestly, my mission today is just to find a tortoise. I would really like to just see a tortoise. I haven't seen one this season. No, that's not true. I saw one tortoise on quarantine a couple of weeks ago. But I haven't seen any leopard tortoises. And they're one of my favorite animals to stop and watch. Okay, better do the cursory glance. Excuse me. Do we have to send any congratulations to any of you? Baby cards, balloons, teddy bears? No? Not yet. And a question on the subject of brand new babies, and I'm afraid to say we are going to be talking about babies quite a lot in the next 2 months because, of course, it is the peak season of birth for a lot of the different antelope. Sorry, what was the name again? Turtle? Tricking turtle. Tricking turtle. Turtle trekking. Almost, Brian. Almost. And tricking turtle, I felt like was a lovely name, but turtle trekking with an E, not an I. He wants to know how long the gestation period is for an impala. So their mating season is around the beginning of June, July, August, September, October, November. It's roughly about, sorry, just realized I've got oil all over my hands, roughly about 5 or so months. And what will happen is that we'll get births of the impalas initially, impala lambs, and then there'll be about a month and a half gap, and then there'll be some, quite literally what we would say in South Africa, laat lammetjies, late little lambs, which a laat lammetjie in Afrikaans refers to a child that's born as a little bit of a surprise quite late in its parent's life. That's a laat lammetjie. And what happens is, if a ewe doesn't fall pregnant straight away, she almost immediately comes back into estrus, and the males mate with her once again, and then you essentially get 2 peaks of breeding, the first births and then the second births. So, if you happen to miss out on the first set of lambs, which you shouldn't, because it'll be quite a few days where that will be spending watching them, and if you happen to miss out on the first set of births, there's always the second to look forward to. And of course, after rain, jumping around a little bit, but after the rain, one of the other things that we always enjoy doing is checking out the water holes. Not because there's going to be any animals there. Chances are there are actually going to be no animals there, except perhaps the odd hippo and bird, but simply to get an idea of just how much rain we have had. Let's go and see what's happening at Sydney's dam. It's quite hard to tell with Sydney's dam because we can't get right up close. And I actually haven't seen Sydney's dam since before the rain. Let's go and investigate. Then we'll go look for the lions, I promise. And Sydney's dam actually doesn't look all that changed. In fact, it might even be less than when I left, it looks like. You can actually see the catfish are starting to flop about in there as it gets more shallow. And Sydney's waterhole is one of the few that never dried up completely. But now look at this. Obviously there was not as much rain here as there was in other places. You can see the catfish, those puddles and ripples in the water. That's the catfish having to move up to the surface for oxygen, because as the water gets less and less and the density of fish gets higher, they start to struggle for oxygen and they start having to move to the surface to supplement. Right, we're going to carry on, see if we can catch up with those lions. Let's head across to Brent, who's got a feathered friend for you all.
It's the first great spotted cuckoo of the year. I have seen them, but this is the first one we've managed to get on camera. It should be a good one for a lot of bird lists. One of the slightly more common cuckoo species, the great spotted cuckoo. A very pretty bird. Now, all the cuckoos are brood parasites. Now, it's quite a big cuckoo, and I wonder if anyone can guess what birds the great spotted cuckoo parasitizes. So, of course, brood parasite means they kick the eggs of other birds out of their nests, lay their own, and oh, there he comes. He's coming closer to us. He's going to land right next to us, so he's going to fly past us. There he goes. Oh, on the ground. Termites. That's the only reason we're going to see them on the ground. Let me try move a little bit. Oh, there we go. He's running along. Must be hunting termites. Here we go. Happy cuckoo. So as I was saying, they choose normally certain species to parasitize, and I wonder if anyone knows what the most common species for the great spotted cuckoo to parasitize is. Remember the black cuckoo, which we find around the drainage lines. They parasitize bobos or southern boobos, the shrike families, and this one doesn't. So I wonder if anyone can guess what species the great spotted cuckoo parasitizes. If you know, send your answers through to questions at WildEarth, or termite hunting. Questions at WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Oh, lion calling again. Those lions are outside of our Travis area. Those sound like they're in Chitwa. Now, Chris Rogue says it's a brood parasite to magpie shrikes. That is correct. It's one of the 11 species that has been recorded as a brood parasite. But in this area, it's mostly starlings. Oh, wonderful camera work for him. Oh, and off he goes. Wow, what a lovely sighting of a not too often seen cuckoo. So apparently, well, it's the second one seen. Apparently you saw one with Byron, but that was my first one. Dave and I spent about an hour trying to get one on camera as it kept flying up and down, having an argument with another one. So, let me know how many cuckoo species out of all the cuckoo species that we get have we seen so far. I know for sure we've seen the African, now the great spotted, the black, what other ones? Oh, the red-chested, I'm presuming, and classes and Deirdrix, I'm not sure yet. But let me know how many cuckoo species have we seen on the live drives this wet season so far. So with this rain and whatnot, there's almost zero dust in the air, and the long distance visibility is absolutely incredible. Now there we go, we're looking off to the southwest. You can see the clouds over the Drakensberg Mountains. Isn't that beautiful? More lions roaring, but they sound like they're in Torchwood. They're just lions roaring everywhere. Those sound like they could be on Cheetah Line. So it sounds like there's lions up here, there's lions there, there's lions there, and there's lions over there. Well, we're going to keep going. Now, as we're looking at the Drakensberg in the distance, Jane is wondering, are there any animals that are endemic to the Drakensberg? Well, there's some bird species such as the Drakensberg siskin. There's some fish species that are endemic to certain mountain streams. But animals as such, not really endemic to the Drakensberg. You'll find some species up there and further on the high veld that we don't get down here on the low veld, such as black wildebeest, oribi, Fall rebok, which is a type of reedbuck, a mountain reedbuck. So there are a few species, but nothing particularly endemic. There are endemic rodents up in the mountains to certain parts of the Drakensberg, but generally further to the south in KwaZulu-Natal, where the Drakensberg is quite a lot higher than here. So I see where Jamie is. Jamie. Jamie, there's more lion audio everywhere. There's some audio down south on Chitwa. They sound like there's some in Torchwood, and others might be sort of Cheetah Line, Buffelshoek Cut Line. What you said? Oh, well spotted, VM. There was some earlier, but the last set of audio I heard was further to the east. Here we go. Good morning, Battalier. All puffed up, fluffed up. Oh, there's a Battalier coming off the ground. I just saw another Battalier take off the ground. Now, one Battalier sitting in the tree in the early morning, meh. A Battalier coming off the ground, and there's a vulture coming off the ground. Now, of course, they could be glutting on termites, or there could be a potential kill around here. So, a vulture and two Battaliers is going to make me look a bit more carefully now. Another vulture. Okay, what's going on here, chaps? So we've got two vultures, two Battaliers so far, two of them on the ground. Well, they were on the ground. There we go, there's one of the vultures. Wonder if the vultures got confused, saw the bat there, thought they had spotted something. They could also just be eating termites. I'm trying to see if there's a big emergence. Looking for tracks on the road. I think they might just be eating termites. Well, let's carry on. Well, Andre says he's got 6 cuckoos on his list. Now, let's go through the potential cuckoo species we get here. Andre said 6, so we've got African European. We haven't seen a European yet that I know of. Great spotted, Levalance, Jacobin, Dedrix, classes, black. Which ones are we missing? Emerald, which is quite a rare one to see in this part of the world. Emerald. And then of course there you've got your vagrant species like the lesser and Madagascar, which only get seen once every couple of years. I think I must be missing one or two. I'll think about it. No tracks yet. Interesting. What you got? Another battalion. So there's another battalion. So there's lots of birds of prey in this. Oh look, he's eating termites right next to us. Well spotted them. So that's why we're finding them on the ground. They're eating flying ants. Even the vultures were getting in on it. Oh, beautiful. And that red face is absolutely spectacular. Catch him! Now, even these massive birds will put massive effort into eating termites. That's how protein rich they are. Oh, there we go. Lion's calling again. Those are in Cheetah by the sound of things. Well, the trick is to see who answers. Here we go. Definitely more ungainly on the ground than they are in the air. You can see lots and lots of termites, but he's only after the alates, which are the flying ants. Oh, there we go, lion's calling again. Those sound really far away, like they could almost be in the Kruger. There's just so many lions calling all around us at the moment. Well, Julia, hello Julia, in Houston would like to know, how do you spell alate? If I remember correctly, it's A-L-A-T-E, alate. stations, more lion audio. Some of it sounds like it's possibly around Cruise Camp, and then more to the south, around Gari Main, maybe Cheetah. And now, speaking of someone who's hunting for lions, let's go see how Jamie is faring.
At the moment, I'm trundling along Gowrie Cut Line, looking to see whether or not the lions are in their usual spot. Now, I don't know what's been happening in the 2 weeks that over 2 weeks that I've been away, but just before I went on leave, this particular area was basically like the Nkahuma's home. They spent a great deal of their time in and around what we call a drainage line, which is essentially a river system, very dry river system, with very dense vegetation off to my left here. And this was one of their favorite spots. And we really had got into the habit of moving very, very slowly along this road, just in case we could pick up a flash of their coats on the opposite side of the bank. I mean, that is not a lion. No. Definitely not a lion. On a day like today, of course, the chances are they're probably going to be moving and not lying down. I know that Brent has mentioned that he has heard the calls of lions, the roars of lions, all the way on Buffels Hook property, which is to the north of our boundary, and also on the southern side of our boundary, so on Cheetah somewhere, just south of Gowrie Main, for those of you familiar with the geography of this area. And that's probably Birmingham boys. Our Rexon, a name that will be familiar to many of you, Rexon is out also helping to look for them. He's gone to check on that buffalo carcass that we left yesterday. My suspicion is that they're not going to be there, though. I can't see why they would be. All of the meat was nearly gone when we were there yesterday. And I.A. Lewis on the subject now, I suppose actually for new viewers, all of that might have been very, very confusing if you're not familiar with the lions of this area. You want to know how many lion groups there are. I hope you won't judge me terribly. I'm going to show you a waterbuck whilst talking about a lion. Young male. Just want to see, just because he was looking quite alert, I just want to stop and have a look at his behavior. Sorry, I.A. Lewis. Bear with me one moment. No, he's completely relaxed now. Young male, slightly waterlogged waterbuck. Of course, they've got the added advantage, unlike quite a few of the antelope out here, of the fact that their coat is waterproof, or relatively waterproof. It's covered in an oil that gives them a very particular pungent smell, and at the same time sort of prevents the water from soaking into their thick, shaggy coat. They're much better adapted for being damp than most of the other antelope, and that's because in certain parts of Africa they actually spend a large portion of their time in water. Lovely. Nibbling away. And there's a bird that I want to draw your attention to. It is a tiny little bird on this knobthorn that's been pushed over. There we go. Brian's on it. Well done, Brian. Okay, well, you got it briefly. I wonder how many of you managed to get a screenshot of that. How quick are you? How quick can you be? That was a male chin spot batis, and if we listen, we can hear them calling. Three blind mice, supposedly. And of course the black-headed oriole. The chin spot batis is one of the few birds where and I.R. Lewis, I know I was in the middle of answering your question, and I will get back to it. I've got the attention span of a 8-week-old puppy. I will get back to that. But the chin spot batis is one of those funny little birds that the male and the female's actually slightly more brightly coloured than the male. I'll show you now what I'm talking about. This is a chin spot batis. tiny little bird, that's the bird that we were looking at for those of you who perhaps missed it. The sighting was so incredibly brief. Brian did very well to have been able to put that on camera. This is the male here, and that was what we were looking at. The female's actually, there's where the name chin spot comes from. The female's got a little brown patch and a little brown collar. Beautiful little birds. I'm just reading their bird calls. It was a game of mine last time, just before I went on leave, to do literal readings of bird calls, of the way that ornithologists write them down in these books. And this chin spot batis says, tew, tew, tew. Oh, well, I'm sort of putting an inflection onto it. And see, wasn't lying about the 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. And harsh chirr, chirr notes. I do enjoy the way that these bird calls are written down. It's highly entertaining. And if you've never heard the bird call before, it makes 0 sense. Right, let's go and move on and look for these lions. And answer poor I.R. Lewis, was it? This is question. Sorry. You've had to wait a long time, and I do thank you. I.A. Lewis, not I.R. Lewis. I.A. Lewis. I do thank you for your patience. How many different groups of lions are there? Well, in the Sabi Sands and in the Greater Kruger National Park area, so this whole vast conservation area, there's about 2,000, possibly over 2,000 lions moving about. Even up to 4,000. Let's get the exact numbers and the exact census, but you're looking at a good couple of thousand animals. In the area that we are in, that we are based in, and we probably traverse around about 2,300 hectares out of 4 million, so our little percentage of this world. We have the Nkuhumas, which is 13 lions, 5 females, 8 cubs. We have the Sticks, which is 3 females and a couple of new cubs, but we're still waiting to determine exactly how many there are. And then there are the Birmingham Boys, 4 large male lions. They're dominant in this area. We occasionally see a pride of lions called the Salalas, which consists of 1 tailless female, very easily identifiable, 1 young female and 3 young males of not quite, probably about 2.5 at this point. Sure, they are just flying ants absolutely everywhere. It's wonderful. It means more sightings like the one Brent had with the Battalier. Sorry, just an observation. Told you, I'm like an 8-week-old puppy in terms of my attention span. I am, however, housebroken. Anyway, who am I missing? Salalas, there's the Matimba males. They have made the odd appearance every now and again. The Matimba males were 2 males that were dominant in this area. They were kicked out by the Birmingham Boys and moved south. I'm missing, the Manganes. The Mangani Pride, which is actually historically related to the Salala Pride and part of a breakaway movement. There's quite a few sub-adults. I think there's about 9 sub-adults that are part of that pride. We hardly ever see them. Something's died here. Brian, while I've been away, has there been a kill somewhere here? There was one just in here. Okay, it did smell a little old. Yeah. I think that's what I'm smelling. Okay, that's what it is. And speaking of smelly things and the multitude of buffalo carcasses, let's head over to Brent, who has found another one. Or maybe he hasn't.
So we've got lots of dead and dying buffalo around, and here's another one. That no cats on it, just some vultures. Here we go. And the vultures are so fat that only one is feeding. Now, of course, one of the disadvantages for the vultures with this many carcasses, obviously it's a positive and a negative, is that there's so much carrying around that the hyenas and lions and whatnot are not feeding off all the carcasses. So as you can see, the vultures don't have the strength to really open up the skin, so they can only feed around the soft bits till it gets really rotten. And that's what's happening here. That you can see they've just opened up in the soft areas, and there's so many carcasses. that the vultures are not even fighting over carcasses. So I've just heard there's 2 mating pairs of lions that we've been hearing in Cheetah. So obviously the sticks are busy planning the next generation. Okay, well, we're going to leave this carcass. Unfortunately, we are heading to the east. I don't know, I've just got an inkling that something's going to be afoot on Cheetah Plains. We are about to drop into the Mowanini River system. As you can see down here ahead, you can see that little drop. And unfortunately, it is one of the few places where we do lose signal, but while we do that, it sounds like Jamie's got a slightly prettier feathered friend than the vultures.
I do indeed, and I found another hornbill nest. This is such fun. Yesterday Dave and myself spent a considerable period of time with a red-billed hornbill that was feeding its chicks, or feeding the female maybe, in a hole in a hollow dead tree. Now, this hornbill, who has just disappeared off, now we have to play the patience game, because this hornbill is going to come back to this patch on the tree. I'm not sure, Brian, did you see exactly which hole it was? I didn't either. And now, we just have to wait. And with this many termites flying around, I don't think we're going to have to wait long until we have an opportunity to see the hornbill return and feed his family. Now, it could be that he is just feeding the female, since when she lays her eggs, she goes into a hole in a tree, just like these ones, and loses her flight feathers to incubate the eggs. Or he could actually, she might have already got past that stage, regrown her feathers, and he might be just feeding the chicks. It might even have been a she. I didn't have a chance to stop and properly look. And now, patience game. And so far, Brian and myself have spotted at least 4 lions between us that have all turned out to be patches of dirt. Come on, hornbill. Oh, you're a different... Don't want to get too distracted. Come on. Yellow-billed hornbill, back you come. It's actually been so much fun over the last few days finding the different nest sites and spending a little bit of time watching the birds bring the food back, whether they be crested barbets, wahlbergs, and of course the hornbills. That's beautiful, Brian. When I was training to be a guide, my instructors would always used to ask us what trees these were, these dead ones that are always so striking, and then say, no, they're dead dog trees because they've got no bark, and laugh every single time. And it still was never funny. It just isn't funny. But every single time, it got very predictable. Okay. Hornbill, you've got 15 seconds to return. Perhaps not quite as efficient as the red-billed hornbill of yesterday. All right, let's go and look for lions, since our hornbill is not playing ball. One more time? No. Okay. You know, Brian, as soon as you bring the camera back round, it's going to arrive. You just know it's going to happen. Or maybe not. Nope, no sign of him. Sure. The smell of dead something is pervasive. Is that a lion I've spotted? No, that's definitely not a lion. That is an impala. Very far away. Oh, somebody, sorry, bear with me in 1 second. Standing by. Rex, I'm sorry, I copied only about 1 out of 5. Please can you go again? I think you said you're taller than Zingala. Okay, copy. Is the same position as yesterday, or where are they? Okay, copy that. Thanks, Rex. I'm going to start slowly making my way there. Do you think it's worth trying from the other side, or do you think that's not going to work? Okay, copy that. Thank you. Rexon has found the lions, and there's no urgency to racing off. He says that the visual is not fantastic. They're in the same area that they were yesterday, which is very, very dense vegetation. I'm just looking for an owl in the tree, sorry. So they're in very dense vegetation, but we're going to make our way there, slowly but surely. He's got a view of 2 females and 5 little, he says what looks like 5 cubs, but he's struggling to see. The question I was asking him, cursory glance, nope, no well wishes needed for this particular herd. And the question I was asking Rex was whether or not we could actually try and come in from the other side of the river system, perhaps get a better view from inside there. The one thing that we have to our advantage today as opposed to yesterday is we don't have the large roof on. Good call, Brian, good call. Brian said he didn't think it was going to rain. I think Brian got that right. I promise you, you want a weather prediction, listen to the cameraman. And as we trundle along, Robin from San Diego, you would like to know if trundling is different from bumbling. Robin, trundling and bumbling are worlds apart in my mind. Trundling, okay, now I've dug myself into a hole, because now I can't think of how on earth to distinguish between the two. Trundling is bumbling with a purpose. No, that doesn't make any sense either. No, it does. Trundling is bumbling with a purpose. Trundling along is when you're sort of half looking for something, but you're sort of stopping for everything as you go along. Bumbling is when you've got no idea exactly what you're going. You've got no fixed plan in your head. You are you are the embodiment of spontaneity. So for this morning, for example, I knew I was going to go and sort of look for the lions with a purpose. I had a route planned and everything like that to take me in a circle back to where they were. So I was trundling, but if I'd set off and at the spur of the moment almost flipped a coin and gone left or right, then I would have been bumbling. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah.
Is that a fair enough distinction? Now Rob in Liverpool, you say if I get bored of the word trundle. No, trundle. I'm mixing up bumble and trumbling's a whole different story. But if I get bored of the word trundle, I can always use the word meander. Absolutely I could. The word meander always makes me think of my childhood whenever we went to go and visit the Drakensberg Mountains and all of the signposts along the way that say the Midlands meander. I imagine twisting and turning. So I think if we're gonna meander along any roads, it would have to be something like Twin Dams or perhaps Leadwood, where you do lots of turning of the steering wheel. But yes, thank you, Rob. Any other adjectives we can think of, Brian? Not adjectives, verbs. Apparently speaking of our speech patterns, which I imagine some of you have a better grasp of our speech patterns than perhaps we do. It's such an automatic thing for us. But Aaron in New Zealand, I'm thrilled to hear that our South Africanisms are rubbing off on you. Aaron finds himself saying the words just now more and more frequently in the South African context. And of course, it's completely uniquely South African, and it confuses people around the world when they hear South Africans talking for the first time. Because, first of all, apparently, all of our vowels sound the same. I disagree with that. I think our vowels sound most distinct. But we also say things like... too loud. We often say things like just now, referring to the future. So rather than it happened just now being the past, I will do it just now means the future. And just now and now and later all have slightly distinct meanings. I could say to Brian could ask me to do something and I can say I'll do it just now. Or I could say to him I'm going to do it now. And we'll both understand exactly what I'm saying, wouldn't we, Brian? Exactly what we're saying. We know what the time frame means, and I can't begin to tell you how it works because it's one of those things that defy explanation, and you just have to be brought up with that way of speaking. But, Aaron, I'm so glad to hear that you have incorporated that into your regular speech pattern. Oh dear, Fran, that is something I've tried to stop myself doing. That is also very true South Africanism. The word shame. Ach, shame. Ach, shame, man. For everything. It is so descriptive across the board. Ah, I see a lion. We say shame if something's cute. We say shame if something's sad. We say shame if we feel sorry for something. We say shame when we're laughing. It's just one of those words, much like my "that being said" phrase that I hang on to so reliantly, that I repeatedly use, or that South Africans repeatedly use. This could be very tricky, couldn't it, Brian? Let me explain to you why it is so pretty, although all the guests turn back to the lions, yes. This is why it is going to be tricky. There is but one entrance to our sleeping cats, and at the moment it is currently occupied. Huh. That's okay. We can give them a few moments to... Oh, we can give them a few moments while we look at the bird life around us. We've got a nice combination of things up in the dead tree. Yesterday we spent a considerable period of time with our warburgs. Now we've got a hardy-dar and a warburg combination. It actually gives you a really nice sense of scale, especially for those of you who are South African. Look how much bigger the hardy-dars are than the warburgs. It gives you a really clear idea. For those of you who have seen hardy-dars before and perhaps never seen a warburg... Oh, it's calling. I love that sound. Absolutely love it. And perhaps for those of you that have seen any type of ibis before, of the sort of medium size, really does give you an idea that warburgs are the smallest of the eagles that we get out here. And they are beautiful. They're in my top 5, I think, birds of prey. Not to be outdone. Come on, that wasn't a proper hardy-dog call. Ah, that is a truly South African sound. Right up there with the words just now and shame. The sound of a hardy-dog calling. I don't know why they're such innately comical birds. Called hardy-dars, after the sound that they make. Hardy-dar. Come on, do it properly. Or are you far too occupied with your morning preening session? As a South African child, it is a sound that we are all intimately familiar with. Brian, can you remember a single summer's morning where there wasn't a hardy-dar calling in your garden? Never, ever. And we had a flock of them, or family of them, that lived in the trees outside our garden for years, and there was one with a messed-up voice box. And I don't know what was wrong with it, but whilst all of them would sort of do the normal ah-dee-dah calls, he used to join in and go, which at 5 o'clock in the morning in the school holidays in summer was not appreciated at all, especially not as I moved further into my teens and valued my lions. Come on, do your proper call. awesome, Brian. There you go. How cool was that? Oh, and a hooded vulture on that note. That was absolutely awesome, Brian, by the way. Truly stunning camera work. Our cameramen are fantastic. Right, well, I think it's time for you to travel a good few kilometers a little bit to the south and to the east of us. Let's head across to Cheetah Plains.
Welcome to the east down on Cheetah Plains. What was that there? We are now near 3 in a row pan, and I'm hoping maybe for some quarantine luck. Maybe that new pack of wild dogs could be around. The 2 male cheetah crossed through, but who knows, they could be back again. So, and I just wanted to come have a look at Cheetah Plains after the rain. It looks like they might have got a little bit more rain here. Oh, it's a goose. An Egyptian goose, that's what it was. There he is with some blacksmith lapwings. Wow. Oh. There we go, that lapwing there was a tiny baby when I went on leave, and now it's flying. Still hanging with mom and dad though. Now, when I come to this part of the world, I have to look in this marula tree. Now, the amount of times quarantine's been found in this tree, and now that it's got some leaves, alas, no leopard in there today. And who knows, maybe the first baby impala of the year is going to be on Cheetah Plains. Now, the other thing that's quite nice about Cheetah Plains, it gives us access to a whole bunch of different bird species that we don't really see on Djuma, down on those lovely open plains. But we're going to head south first, down towards the Mala boundary, and then head east towards the open areas. So I said there seems to be a bit more rain here overnight. There's a few bigger puddles, and one of the other things is we might find some wading birds on the pans down near the open areas. Maybe we'll get lucky. I'm really hoping we see painted snipe this year as well. And also, of course, one of the few places we see ostrich regularly. So who knows, maybe we'll have a flock of ostriches. And Aaron in New Zealand was hoping for an ostrich sighting. It's also quite nice after the rain just to go have a check of everything. This is the first time I've been down to Cheetah Plains since I've been back from leave. So just scoping it all out. What was that now? No. False alarm. I do feel like I haven't seen Nkanyini in so long, and she is one of my favorite female leopards, and this is her part of the world down here. Absolutely gorgeous morning. Morning, Mary. Mary's wondering, do people live within the park or on the outskirts? And the answer is yes to both. For example, where we live most of our lives inside the park at Djuma, and also all the lodges will have people who live there. And then on the edge, well, on the western and southern boundaries of the Sabi Sands, people do live. There's some large communities, and a lot of people from those communities work within the park. So yes, there are people. Now the eastern edge and the northern edge, no one lives in. The north is open to the Manyeleti, another game reserve, and the east is open to the massive Kruger National Park. So even though we only traverse about 6,000 acres, the whole Sabi Sands itself is about 120,000 acres, but it's completely open to the Kruger system, and so we're open to, can you believe it? And I'm trying to remember the exact, there's about 8.5 million acres of unfenced area, all for the animals, Mary. And of course, it would be lovely if we could, but we can't drive everywhere. But we do quite well with what we've got, and it is a spectacular part of the world. Here we go. We're now down on the most southern edge of our traverse. Now just over this rise up ahead is where those big open plains are. I wonder what wonders those open plains are going to produce today. Remember, this is a live African safari, and like Mary, you can ask us questions by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can pop an email to questions@wildearth.tv. Oh, off it went. Now listen to this. There's a properly nice little bird party around here. We can't see them, but you can just hear them. You hear that? That is a black-crowned chagra. Not doing his full call, but it is a spectacular call. You can hear some shrikes, some black-back puffbacks, some little seed eaters, maybe a yellow-throated petronia, white-browed scrub robin, hornbills. Okay, let's see if we can actually see some of these birds. There's a little dry river system here, and they sound to be close to the edge. Now, the chagra that's got that beautiful call, he's one of the harder ones to see, because he's at what we call a skulking species. So he skulks in around the base of thick bushes. See if we can spot him. Nope, I can't spot him yet. He's probably right at the base of one of those thickets. Beautiful. Yeah, don't fly away, don't fly away. Vims. Oh, he's gone. Just took off. Yellow-throated petronias, or yellow-throated sparrows, but they have vanished. Now, the sun seems to be coming through a little bit, so we might get some beautiful light a little later. Now, there's another vulture. I just see one. And I said there could be just retired buffalo all over the place, but I think this one's just found a spot to sit. Yeah, white-backed vulture. Let's move on. Oh, who's that on the way towards us? Could be Andrew, the head guide of Cheetah Plains, or it could be Michael. Oh, they spotted something up ahead. Let's go have a look. No, looks like just searching like us. Morning, morning. Good, thanks. How are you, Andrew?
I was struggling to book you.
I was
Down in the rock bend.
anything that side?
Nothing. There's a lot of noise of construction, road.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Cheetah Plains also, there's a lot of noise.
Okay.
And then just down in for my the park down there. So otherwise, it's fine. But yeah, nothing much. I was hoping for quarantine around.
Yes, I heard he was close to the boundary yesterday.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go back to that Ghana, see if he's still in touch with. Otherwise, maybe you should stop him there.
Perfect.
And then I'll give you guys that, right?
Thanks very much, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
So there we go. Yesterday, someone asked about when we have lots of, oh my goodness, honey buzzard. It looked like, no, it's a dark chanting goshawk. I thought for a second it looked like a European honey buzzard, but it's not. Just a bit of a bedraggled dark chanting goshawk. Off it goes. Now, about what flood damage is the worst when we get lots of rain here? Well, quite often, most of the areas we try to be proactive, fix the roads before they need fixing. But if you have a serious amount of rain, a sort of real dumping, the biggest problem is the roads. So likely we're going to be seeing quite a bit of road maintenance while we're driving around at this time of the year. Now, James is wondering, do the rivers flow with the rain? If they do, it will be very for very short periods of time. They don't flow constantly, and they've never flown constantly. That's one of the things about these little sand rivers. They'll flow for an hour or two. If there's an incredible amount of rain, maybe 4 or 5, and then they'll drop down. Okay, fingers crossed that our luck is better than Andrew's as we come across into the large open areas. Oh, can we see anything? Can we see anything? Not yet. So Andrew had the same idea as me. Have a look for Mr. Q. Here we go. What is here? What is here? It is beautiful nonetheless, even if there are no animals out on this open area. Now, of course, as the grass gets a bit longer out here, it's going to attract wildebeest and zebra. I wonder if we're going to see my old friend who I haven't seen in so long, Gnormless Gnorman the Gnu. There we go. There he is. Hello, Gnormless. There we go, Gnormless ruminating away. And you might hear some large noise ahead. And that's what Andrew was talking about, a bit of road maintenance. Beep, 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 beep. And let's try and get past. Let's get away from the noise of the road maintenance. Oh, There's some big and heavy machinery around. And Catherine's wondering, does the air smell great after the rain? Indeed it does, Catherine. It's very clean and fresh and smells like everything's new and growing. So, there we go. You can see the road maintenance. Certain areas, depending on the soil, needs more maintenance than others. So an area like this, where you've got clay soils quite close to the base, is going to need quite a bit more work than an area up on the crest that's got granite soils. As you can see, hello, there's large machinery, but let's go away from machine cats and to real cats with Jamie.
Real and very sleepy cats in the form of some of the members of the Nkuhuma Pride. One lioness lying with one very full belly, full of buffalo. Sorry, guinea fowl alarm calling. It's hard to tell at the moment whether or not the guinea fowl are actually alarm calling or if they're fighting. The reason I say that is that it's their breeding season. Sorry, I just had to stop and listen to that for one moment. Let's go back to our lovely lioness. As I said, belly full of buffalo, as you can see, and looking well and truly content, and really not like she's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And then, happily, since yesterday we didn't have a chance to see them, one large bundle of cubs. And I can't begin to tell you how many cubs there are there. I think there is about 5 of them. But I'm not 100% sure. It is very difficult to tell where one furball begins and ends. Little mounds of breathing fur. So cute. All tucked together for warmth. I think they had quite a chilly evening last night, being rained upon. Isn't that adorable? All those little chests and backs rising at different times as they breathe. Terribly, terribly sweet. Oh, there's one. Yep, I think there's 5 there. The others must be further into the drainage line or into the vegetation itself. And they just look so incredibly comfortable and give us a really lovely view into the bonds between a different lion, or between members of the lion pride. And these cubs are going to be inseparable as they grow up, and then of course the females will be part of the pride, the males will be off on their own with each other. Either way, the bonds are incredibly important. And after a night of being drenched in the rain, which by the way is really very positive, them being soaked to the skin is a really positive step forward in terms of helping them recover from the mange. The more rain we have, the better for their skin condition. But it would have made them feel particularly chilly, and you can see they're still a little bit damp, and hence the reason for being cuddled up together for warmth. Such a sweet picture. Unfortunately, this is what is known entirely as a one-vehicle sighting only. As you saw earlier with Rex, it's now our turn, but we will have a limited time to spend with them. Once the other vehicle makes its way in here, we'll have to pull out in order to give them this spot, because honestly, there really is nowhere else to go. However, I'm going to go forward a little bit so that hopefully we can see the male, whom I think is lying up just a little bit to my left. Now there we go. We had a relatively easy job this morning of catching up with these lions. Hello, my girl. Don't mind me. Oh, goodness. Short of nose planting into the Tambuerti, I don't know how possible this is going to be. Hello, Tambuerti. That's it, I'm afraid. That's as far as I should go. Otherwise, we are going to do some damage, which I don't want to do. Now, we've got a male lion, one of the Birmingham boys. No idea which individual this is. I honestly can't tell. And I don't want to hazard a guess unless he lifts his head. The one Birmingham boy, where on earth are the rest of these lions? They must all be... Oh, goodness. We're going on a journey, Brian. That's definitely not where we want to go. Yank the handbrake up, but I honestly think it's just the soil slipping out from under us. Somewhere in here, the rest of the pride must be hiding. But this is a completely impenetrable area. There's absolutely no way for us to get further in here. So for now, we will make do with the view that we have. One, two, trying to do a head count, but it's impossible. Now, Fiona, you wanted to know what the situation is with the mange. For our new viewers, perhaps you've just jumped on board and you've missed out on the entire drama that has surrounded it. So mange, and Fiona, sorry, I'm going to go into a bit more depth. I know this isn't necessarily exactly what you were asking, but we'll go into more depth for our newer viewers as well to explain it thoroughly. So the situation with the mange animals, there has been an outbreak of demodectic mange rather than sarcoptic mange in the various animals around this entire reserve. We've seen that some of the impala are infected with it. I've seen some of the inyala infected with it. It is a very naturally occurring disease, and it flourishes during times of drought. And it is very, very sad to see the impact that it does have on some animals. And we've lost the entire group of Styx cubs, or the first group of Styx cubs, all 8 of them. Well, most of them succumbed to the mange. One of them apparently had a very, very unfortunate encounter with an elephant herd, which does occasionally happen to lion cubs. They do every now and again get trampled. There are so many dangers out here for these little guys. The decision was made because the mites that carry mange and the entire situation is a naturally occurring disease in this area, and the lion population in this particular part of South Africa is entirely stable. And to have too many lions, because mange is all part of the natural ecosystem that helps to control the number of different animals, and to have too many lions automatically places the rest of the ecosystem at risk. So the decision, and as well as the fact that to treat them would have been more disruptive to their natural way of living than to actually allow the disease to take its course. Unfortunately, the Styx cubs proved not to be particularly resilient to that type of mange. The Nkuhumas, on the other hand, who have contracted it, probably it was spread through contact with one of the Birmingham boys, just because they're a common, it's not their fault, it's just because they're a common link between the two different prides. That being said, it could, oh dear, having mentioned that, it could also be a coincidence. The Nkuhumas, however, seem to be showing a far greater resilience to the mange itself. Whether or not that's because the cubs were slightly older when they contracted it, or whether it's because the Nkuhumas have done a slightly better job at providing for them in terms of food, I think it's more actually a natural genetic resistance and the fact that they're older. They seem to be kicking it relatively well. And I have to say, I've seen a vast improvement since I've been on leave. And I'm hoping that we will continue to see that improvement. And then you've got to factor in the knowledge that whichever individuals survive this mange outbreak will be the ones that carry a gene that will be in some way resistant, or at least strong enough to fight it off for future generations of lions. So that's the entire situation with mange. Betty, you asked a question that I've been asked before, and I desperately went digging around for information about it, and I struggled to come up with anything. You wanted to know whether or not animals like elephants without fur fall victim to such skin conditions, and whether or not they have some other skin conditions that they get. I've tried to look into this to see whether there are any species-specific types of skin disease, particularly where elephants are concerned. I haven't been able to find anything. I did fall down a rabbit hole of all kinds of medical interesting medical disorders with skins of various wild animals, but I didn't find much on elephants, and I've also never found any evidence of elephants contracting mange. And that makes sense because, as we've said, mange is a mite-based disease, so it's based on a tiny little creature that inhabits the hair follicles. An elephant's skin is very, very thick, although it is important to remember that elephants are not bald. They do have hair. They've actually got quite a considerable amount of hair. It's just quite sparse in terms of its covering, very, very bristly. So I think the mites probably struggle to actually get into that particular patch of hair. I did look it up in terms of genetic or other species-specific types of skin disease that elephants get, and I haven't honestly come up with any answers there. So I don't know if any of you know of any skin diseases that are specific to elephants. I know there is, specifically with black rhino, during the summer months, almost all of them start to develop weepy sores in the folds of their skin, and that's because they attract a certain type of fly that then spreads bacteria. And again, I can't remember the name of that skin disease. It will come back to me. But elephants, I don't know. I have never seen an elephant with a skin disease. Okay, Sleepy and Kahumas, I think it is time to leave you, make space for some of the other vehicles. But before we do, Ginny, you wanted to know if any of these animals get fleas on the subject of various parasites. Yes, but very occasionally they're far more likely to carry things like ticks. It's important to remember that an animal like a lion is a parasite-ridden bundle of fluff. They really are. They are absolutely covered in parasites. They've got internal parasites. Their fur is covered in bacteria and mainly ticks that tend to outcompete the fleas. So we don't get much in the way of flea outbreaks, but they are around. There are some. But it's far more likely to be ticks that affect the animals. And I'm just looking at the cubs. They seem to be okay, although they probably are covered in ticks if we were to have a closer look. But looking at the female, she's got quite a heavy tick infestation underneath her tail, and I don't think we should dwell too long on it. We'll have a brief look and then move out. But just to give you an idea of just how many ticks are around that particular soft area of her body. Oh, gives me the shivers. Let's not dwell too long on that. Oof. And yes, parasite, sorry girl, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you. Parasite-ridden animals. And it's important to remember, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're hands-on with a lion, you'll find that vets and all people involved in moving lions around, darting lions for whatever reason, everybody wears gloves. And whenever I've handled lions, I've always had gloves on, or immediately gone to wash my hands, because you just do not begin to know the amount of parasites they carry. Now, Daniel, you wanted to know if I've ever cuddled a lion cub. And yes, I have, when I was a small child. I have cuddled a lion cub. They were brought to the school that I was in many, many, many years ago. This was before we knew better. Not that I'm excusing that. And I did cuddle a lion cub when I was a child. In fact, most of us as South African children of my generation did have that opportunity. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. Did I know any better? No, not then. Now, however, we are gearing more and more towards the knowledge, and this is very, very important as to just how bad cub cuddling truly is. A real conservationist is not about cuddling animals in any way, shape, or form. A conservationist is a true conservationist is about the survival of a species and an ecosystem as a whole. Cuddling cubs, for those of you that are new to this concept and perhaps you see it as a very attractive prospect, it must be lovely to go and cuddle cubs in breeding centres that claim to be helping the lions. Just bear in mind that those cubs that you've cuddled are ripped away from their mothers long before they are ready to be removed from her. They are constantly handled by human beings, which is as different from their wild reality as it can get, and then they can never be released back into the wild, so don't ever believe that that is possible. A lion that has been raised by humans or has even become used to humans cannot be released into the wild, and as a result, they get sent to canned hunting industries. And do not buy into the lies that the cub petting facilities tell you that no, they're different, because they're not. It is in no way, and it's actually grossly unfair on the cub itself. And I wish I could go back in time and tell my 10-year-old self, or however old I happen to be, that was the case. I can't, but I wish I could. But at least use that experience to warn those of you in the future. Brian, do you remember they used to bring those animals around schools? I can't remember what it was. Well, obviously, I'm actually not going to give out the name of the organisation that used to do it, but they'd bring all kinds of things. Little owls, little scops owls, all sorts of things, hedgehogs. And in a way, it was entirely well-meaning. It really was. It was a genuinely well-meaning thing to take these wild animals to children who might not have the opportunity to see them in the wild, and to educate them about it, and to try and explain just how valuable these creatures are, and to develop that interest in wild animals, which is understandable, but doesn't have any real sway in the real world, which is why it's so wonderful that technology has got to the point that we can bring you a live safari with wild lions, not touching them, not impacting them in any way, and we'll be able to take those across the world too, which is why I love our school program. And on that note, on that happy note, we are going to leave our beautiful lions uncuddled, unmolested from us, leave them sleeping peacefully, and make some space for some of the other vehicles. And while we navigate out on a slippery way, you definitely don't want to cuddle him, Brian. I really wouldn't want to cuddle him. While we navigate our way out of here, let's head across to Brent and see how he's navigating Cheetah Plains.